Hi everyone and welcome back or welcome to my channel if this is your first time here. My name is Amy and I have an unhealthy obsession with F1. The 2022 Austrian Grand Prix was on this weekend, so let's talk about it. First up, Ferrari. For once, actually getting the strategy right during the main race, at least. Meaning, for the first time in like 2 months, Charles Leclerc was back on the podium, beating Max Verstappen to the top step by just under 2 seconds. For a second there, I just thought Ferrari wasn't confident with their strategy at all, them telling Sainz to go to plan E. But turns out they were, and they were likely on for a 1-2, until we found out what plan E actually was. Engine exploding. Yeah. It always has to be either strategy or reliability with Ferrari. They can't have a fully good weekend these days. And even towards the end of the race, Charles was experiencing issues with his throttle that allowed Verstappen to close the gap a little bit, but luckily, Leclerc was able to stay ahead. So yeah, good weekend for Ferrari in terms of strategy, but reliability still remains to be a major concern going ahead for the rest of the year. Next up, Mick bloody Schumacher. Take a bow. What a weekend for the German. From not scoring any points for close to a year and a half to 2 points finishes in a row. Not only that, but he finished 6th in the main race, and he was finally able to show us the wheel-to-wheel talent that he displayed to win F2 and F3. Personally, he was my driver of the day, and most people seem to agree. The Schumacher genes are starting to show themselves, and Mick is finally in his villain era, and I love it. Especially after the sprint, he was getting on the team radio after the team wouldn't let him pass his teammate Kevin Magnussen. And in the post-sprint interviews, he seemed genuinely pissed, which is a far departure from his usual demeanour. But hey, if it means he keeps up these performances in a Haas that hasn't received any upgrades this season, I'm here for it. Another thing that was truly in the limelight this weekend was the stewarding, particularly in terms of track limits, not just in F1, but across all the categories that race there. In terms of F1, it started in qualifying on Friday with multiple drivers having their quick laps deleted due to exceeding track limits, including Sergio Perez, who actually had his Q2 time deleted after the session, so all of his Q3 laps didn't count either, meaning he started further back in the pack. I do think that this was the right decision ultimately. I just wish they made it, during the session so Gasly could actually have a go at the top 10. During Sunday's race, they remained incredibly consistent as well, with any driver who went over the white line receiving a warning. I believe it was something like 43 different track limits warnings handed out during the race, which is a lot. And this all resulted in several drivers receiving 5-second penalties. Speaking of time penalties, I was also happy to see that they were consistent with the whole Russell Perez incident based upon Lewis and Albon a couple of years ago, and again applying the same thing to Gasly and Vettel later in the race. Whilst on the topic of Russell, shout out to Mercedes for making the most of Ferrari and Red Bull's misfortunes, finishing 3rd and 4th again, despite being miles off the pace of the two leaders. This makes it 3 podiums in a row for Lewis Hamilton, and yet another top 5 finish for George, coming back from the 5-second penalty with damage. You have to say that with this consistency and this pace, they definitely have 3rd locked in the Constructors. I don't think that's controversial to say. And there could be a bit of a spanner in the works for the likes of Ferrari and Red Bull, taking points away from the championship leaders. Looking at the rest of the midfield, Sunday's race saw such close racing, it was insane. It truly goes to show how well these new regulations seem to be working. We might not have had a close fight for the lead, but a few 5-wide, 4-wide moments truly made up for it. So good. Even if it was just for the lower points paying positions. It was so good to see so many cars fighting so closely with no contact being made. In fact, it was a really clean race with only 2 cars ending up in the gravel, so... Again, a double points finish for Haas means that they could potentially maybe stop badgering McLaren and Alpine for 4th in the Constructors. I don't know, but either way, the midfield is going to be extremely close for the rest of the season. Finally, a couple of special mentions. McLaren double points, which is really good considering where they qualified on Friday. Really, I'm just happy to see Danny Rick back in the top 10. Wearing my knockoff McLaren t-shirt, despite it being freezing here, just in support. Also, shout out to Alonso, overtaking Yuki Tsunoda after being squeezed onto the grass, giving him a little finger wag as he got the move done. Brilliant stuff. And that brings my first weekend wrap up to a wrap. Thank you so much for watching, and leave a comment down below your favourite moment of the weekend, because I feel like there were quite a few. If you liked the video, then drop a like and press the red button to subscribe for more motorsport and F1 related content. I'll see you in the next one. Laters.